the character I play and the voice in the film is very faithful to the 1940s character that Dickie Jones portrayed. And I kept it, I thought it was important to keep it very similar to that, but I also added my own kind of energy into it. So, yeah. I think everyone knows the scene where Pinocchio is in the cage and his nose grows as he's telling the lies. So off the top of my head, that's probably the most most known Pinocchio scene, I'd say. That's one that I always remember, and I think like everyone else also does. It was amazing. Like someone as legendary as Robert Zemeckis directing you, like it was like a dream come true, right? Like there were times on set where we'd be doing it and it was really collaborative. Like I'd say it and he'd be like, yeah, Ben, okay, a bit higher. And we worked together on getting it where we both wanted it. And yeah, it was really great. Well, audience can look forward to seeing both like faithfulness to the original, but also a few new things, like a few new songs or a few new characters here and there. But I don't want to spoil anything, so tune in. Disney Plus, September 8th. One of my favorite memories was on like the first day that I was in the studio on set. We were about to go and do the first scene, but then Tom Hanks just came around the corner and said, "Hey Ben, do you want to learn lines?" And I was like, "Do you want to just run some lines?" And I was there like, oh my gosh, Tom Hanks is right in front of me. And I was looking like to me and my dad like, oh my gosh, but I had to put on like my cool face on and like, oh yeah, I'll run lines with you, Mr. Hanks. So that was one of my favorite ones, like the first time I really worked with him. I'd say the story of Pinocchio has lasted so long is because it's so magical and it's got so many rich morals in it, like the moral of truthfulness. And I feel like if there's one thing that you take away from the film is that the world is an exciting place. And even, as you walk through it, you have to be truthful and you have to be kind.
I play the Blue Fairy, and she essentially is the guide at the beginning of this that sends Pinocchio and Jiminy Cricket on their journey towards real boydom. We'll call it that, yeah. My strongest memories, probably I loved the relationship that Geppetto and Pinocchio had, and the sort of like love and the sweetness there. There's that wonderful wanting of like both of them want love essentially, and I think that's the thing I remembered the most, and how sort of whimsical each of these characters were, larger than life beings that sort of existed in this world. I think that's what I remember the most about. Yeah, I think the story of Pinocchio has endured for so many years because I think that sort of this quest that they're on is sort of one that most of us are always on, searching for truth, searching for honesty, making sure that we feel loved and knowing that who we are is enough, and to be real doesn't necessarily mean what it is on the surface. To be real is to feel good and to feel love and to be kind, and all of those things. As human beings, those are the qualities we're searching for within one another. And I think that's sort of why it just sort of reiterates that. Yeah. What can the audience look forward to seeing? I think there's some fun in it. There's some laughter. There's a little bit of music and a little bit of magic. I think it looks spectacular as well, and just a new version of something that we've known for a really long time. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. The experience was great. He was so kind. It felt really tailored to who I was as an actor and what I needed to do my performance. I remember the day we started to shoot, he asked how I wanted to do it, and I had learnt it like a full scene. So I'd learnt it from the top to bottom as one scene. And he asked if I wanted to read it that way or do it in parts. And I said, I'd love to read it all the way through if I could. And he was like, fabulous. Well, we'll just keep going through and we'll go from the top to the end and we'll make it work that way. And it was, for me, really wonderful to be able to do it that way, because it allowed me to sort of drop in and be really connected. Yeah.
I play the coachman who appears in the middle of the night when Pinocchio and Jiminy Cricket are on the street, and he gets scooped up by a passing coach that is speeding through the town full of children. And the coachman takes this little wooden boy to a place called Pleasure Island, where all the kids can be as naughty as they want and have as much fun as they want and eat and drink whatever they want. And the coachman has an ulterior motive, a very dark motive, to turn these children, once they've drunk this root beer, into donkeys. I remember being a child and being very anxious watching Pinocchio's journey. He seems to just make all the wrong turns, meets all the wrong people, and gets himself into all the worst situations in the space of a few days. He seems very unlucky during that period, but he seems to survive and get through it. And I remember as a child being very nervous for him and very anxious for him. Wonderful. I mean, it was a bucket list moment for me to be able to work with Robert and to enjoy his energy and be directed by him and watch him enjoy my performance. Wonderful music, color, entertainment, laughters, terror, fear of moments of Pinocchio's journey. I hope they get swept up just like Pinocchio gets swept up by the coachman, and hold their breath for the whole show and hope to God that he survives the end. It's a legendary story. It's a fairy tale, and the real good fairy tales, they've lasted for centuries, and this one has lasted over a century. And it has many beautiful messages, some very important messages. And I think as a child, it's very hard to describe these messages other than in a fairy tale. And that's what fairy tales were built for in the first place. And I think it stood the test of time because it is a beautiful story of love and hope and determination and wishing and allowing yourself to believe that your dream can come true.
I think the first song that we composed was for Geppetto in the first scene of Pinocchio. And he's looking at a picture of apparently his son, and he's been making a puppet called, he hasn't have a name yet. And we wrote a song called When He Was Here With Me. And it was about, it's an oblique reference to his long lost son. So that was the first song, and it was, all diegetic part of the scene.
Yeah, these song places were in the script for Glenn and I, mostly right from the very beginning. So we were able to kind of hit the ground running. It didn't help that much in terms of what we would write, but in terms of the setup, the clarity of the scene and the writing, we really had great guidance right off the page. And, we went to work and we developed ideas. Some of them flew, as they say, and some of them flew out the window. There was a lot of flying, but the thing that's magnificent about Robert Zemeckis is his tremendous sense of clarity about what will work in his film. He knows it immediately, both ways. He knows if a piece of music will help, and he's also not shy to say, which he has to me over many years, Al, that's a beautiful piece of music, but it's not going to be in my movie. So, it's a real organic process to come to something that works in the film.
The biggest challenges for writing new songs for this film were writing good songs. As always. And clearly trying to, we had 3 iconic songs in the show already, which we loved and embraced. So it was up to us to at least be that good and to try to find a way to use songs the way that Bob wanted to use them in the show. So it was, that's always the stress, is to be great. It's to try to go for greatness. And when you have great people you're working with, anything short of that, you haven't made it. So, we did a deep dive trying to make sure that these songs were resonant with all of it.
Yeah, and again, Bob Zemeckis, he takes the biggest challenge on his own shoulders. He's actually remaking Pinocchio. So let's feel his pain. And all of the rest of us on every level get to see him taking that on very directly. And it's inspiring. It gets you past the jitters and the insecurities to, you just want to help them. And that's what Glenn and I tried to do.
I'm normally in Hollywood, and Alan is normally in Carmel. And thanks to the digital connection that we have, we can work every day, and we often do. And because of the digital platforms, we're just able to exchange everything that we do as though we're in the same room together. And we also get to Zoom every day and just have a few laughs. And but apart from me missing being able to drink some of his wonderful wine together with him, we're together all the time. We're just lucky that we have that connection. We've been working like that for years. I think audiences will be touched by the humanity that emerges from a wooden boy, and that the lesson that the most important thing about life is to love and to be loved, even if you happen to be made of wood.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a coming age story in a very real way. And it's a story of redemption. Pinocchio, first of all, he's different than everyone else in the world. And that's a big thing. He's a good kid, not a real kid, but he's a good kid. And he makes a couple of mistakes, but he's still a good kid. And he gets a chance to redeem himself. It's I think, a great archetype of something that literature has been addressing and showing probably since the history of literature. So it's this iconic archetype of a story. I think it resonates with every age group. It's just one of those kinds of profoundly basic human stories. Gee, it's a tough question, because there are other directors who have some of Bob's qualities, but what I find to be most amazing about Robert Zemeckis is, aside from his bedside manner with his talent, and that's everybody else working on the movie, he's magnificent as a support, and encouraging people to bring their best. But what I find truly, most remarkable is that he has this ability to communicate his storytelling. And this may sound crazy, but he communicates it in his movie. He doesn't shoot a scene and then have to talk to you for an hour and a half about what that scene is about and what he's going for and what it means in the context of the film. He shoots the scene and you watch it, and he's told you everything you need to know to do your work through his craft. And he does that consistently. And I think it's one of the most magnificent things anyone working in an art form could hope from a collaborator.
Robert Zemeckis has been so supportive of me as a songwriter, and Alan and I as songwriters from the very beginning. And he's always allowed us to experiment and to bring him things. And if he liked it, then we were good. If he didn't, he would immediately tell us. The clarity. Some people prevaricate about everything. He knows immediately if he likes it, he doesn't like it. But he's always had our back with studios, with whoever it is, he always protected us. And I'm always forever grateful for his protection as a songwriter, as a lowly songwriter.